Welcome in to the first episode of the KFG podcast this season. You already see across from me on the other side of the camera here, we got JB Scoops. JB, welcome in. It's been too long.
It definitely has. Thanks for having me on. I love being a part of the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
3 weeks into the 2024 season, it's been crazy. Can't wait to dive into it with you, man.
Yeah, can't wait. I mean, it's been a long time coming. We had first time we're getting together in 2024 to put together an episode, so I'm psyched for that. Lot to dive into, and today on the slate, what do we got for the crew, JB? What are we getting into today?
Yeah, so we usually go over our in-game, pre-game matchups for the
Mm-hmm.
week. We'll save that for last. Before that, though, like we said, introduction to the season. We can go over a little bit of storylines in the
Oh
NFL.
yeah.
A little bit. We'll probably do that more through and through the segments that we do. But
Mm-hmm.
Nick, of course, as he does every Tuesday and Wednesday, drop the power rankings for the week, for the current week of the season, so week 4. Can't wait to see those. And like I said, then we'll go into the game by game, and other notable headlines for each team.
Hell yeah, I like that. I'm happy to have you along with me for the power ranking. Usually a solo job, but it's nice to have someone else to help talk about the other teams of the league. I've done enough staring at these roster pages.
Well, we always look forward to your posts on the league website, so make
Yeah,
sure you guys check that out when you
yep,
check out this pod episode.
always. We'll pop them in there, and I'll throw a little written segment too. It's good to get back to form a little bit. Get back to the old habits. Back
Absolutely.
to the writing days. All right, I'm sure everyone's heard enough yapping from us. Let's get into some podcasts, or let's get into some power rankings. And we'll start from the bottom up. We'll start here at number 10. Um, we're gonna run it back again. Last week I had Shijin at number 10. This week we got Shijin at number 10. The Germany news for CMC to me is not good news. That doesn't seem like he's coming back anytime soon. You won't be seeing him till mid to late. And you look at the running back room here on this team, and it is depleted. David Montgomery, the lead back, not great. I think he's a solid play and definitely an awesome play, but to him to carry the room pretty much, you're looking at again a bunch of split carry guys with Rico Daddle, Jalen Warren, Chase Brown. Um, I'm not even going to mention the rest of the bench. It's a whole lot of mid. Hopefully, someone can emerge as the lead back of their backfield. Another injury, someone goes down, and these guys are controlling the room. So Shijin does have that going for him, and hopefully he can get someone there. But things could look up. A strong wide receiver core for Shij. With Nico, with Malik Neighbors just absolutely being a stud. So there's definitely ways Shijin can improve, but it's going to be on the back of those wide receivers carrying that load week in and week out.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of interesting. I know the power rankings don't always, especially early in the season, correlate to the success and the standings or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But it's worth noting that if the season ended today, Shijin would be a playoff team.
Yeah.
He is the sixth. He's in the sixth seed right now. He's the highest scoring of the tie-breaking, 6 through 9 of 1 and 2 or 1 and 2 teams. So he's got that going for him. Like you said, running back definitely, the weakness of this team. But looking at it, he's got Nico Collins and the wide receiver 1 through 3 weeks, Malik Neighbors. Crazy to think about. Shout out the Giants.
Absolute boss.
Yeah, he is. He's looking awesome. So he's got a great duo there. And then he's obviously got Jalen Hurts, who's going to post big numbers for you. You'd like to think week 1 was good, but the last 2 games he struggled a little bit, so they got to find their groove, especially without AJ Brown right now. And then Kincaid, hasn't really panned out is what we expected before the season. But Josh Allen, the boys love to put up points, so you hope. Last night he scored, so you hope that he finds his groove soon.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kincaid's done fine. I think the last 2 games have been tough just because they've blown them. They're blown their opponents out. They don't even need to run their offense in the second half. You saw it last night, right to Mitch Trubisky. Whatever, late in the third, early fourth, whenever it was. So I think Kincaid will be fine. He's getting the looks early, and then they change the game script to run only and milk the clock and get out of there health free. So I think I like the roster. Don't get me wrong. It's tough. It's tough to rank every team against each other. But like you said, he's 6th in the standings. But you know what? I don't want to rank your teams based on the standings. Any one of us can go to the standings page and sort 1 to 10 and see who's who. Power rankings, it's supposed to be a little long standing and see how they could be throughout the whole season as opposed to how they are right now. Little
Absolutely.
change up. But yeah, I think Yeah, so I agree with what you said. It's a solid team. It's the McCaffrey news that scares me the most. Is how will he fare the next? Could be another 4 weeks, if not more, without him.
As a Jordan Mason owner, I do hope that's the case. Take your time to get back, buddy. Get ready for the playoffs.
As a Jordan Mason owner in Dynasty, I agree with you. We'll get into number 9 here, and you know what? We're staying in India for number 9. We got Drew down at number 9. Last week he was at number 7. He asked to be 10. He won a game, so I dropped him to 9. He gets that spot up. I've liked Drew's team the whole year. Obviously putting him at 7, still 0-2, and kind of at the bottom. Again, he might not have a lot of points to his name right now, but I feel like there's room for improvement here. There's ways it's going up. I love how Kyron Williams is still getting utilized in LA despite them drafting Corum. There was all this scare. No, Kyron's still the guy there. I love him there. You saw Jamar Chase get back to form last night, and maybe the Bengals defense sucks, but that's a good thing for fantasy. You want your team's defense to suck. That means they'll be throwing more. Jamar Chase looks awesome. Obviously, Mike Evans has taken a small hit this year. I mean, that's just due to Godwin being awesome, but I think Mike Evans is fine. He's going to see the number ones when he gets into some more favorable matchups, and they're playing Philly this week, who's been outside of last week an easy team to throw on, and Evans should be hopefully back to form. I still like some of his pieces. Not crazy about some of the depth pieces, but I like Drew's lineup.
Yeah, no, I agree. You definitely can't go wrong with Lamar Jackson. Obviously, easily, number 2 right now. He gives you that rushing upside, so that's awesome. Kyron Williams literally carrying the Rams on his back right now, so he's got that going for him. Just hope he stays healthy. Yeah, and you showed it. With Jamar, it takes him and Burrow sometimes. It takes them a couple weeks to get warmed up, but
yeah.
When he gets going, he's there's almost nobody better than him. So he's definitely got that rolling. So yeah, definitely a lot of key players which are doing the heavy lifting for him right now. And I like the piece he has in the flex. And they big upside pieces, but I just don't, they're very inconsistent. Like JSN this year had that one game sandwiched in between 2 duds.
Yeah.
If he's showing that more consistently, turns into the top receiver in that room. If he beats out DK, that'd be big for him. Rashad White losing some snaps to Bucky. So it's a lot of fluid situations that if it goes Drew's way, I think he'll be able to find the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of why I dropped Drew from 7 to 9, despite the win, is more so just kind of what's been going on. Kittle battling an injury, obviously. That wasn't there last week when I was ranking. Now he's battling an injury. Looks like Zamir White, I don't even know if the Raiders care about him. He's not being used at all. The Rashad White news is a little scary. And I think, I like the talent of Jackson Smith-Njigba. That was someone I definitely wanted to draft this year. He just went a little early for my liking. I think that receiver room is just so crowded. And you have Geno Smith throwing the ball. Not that that's a bad thing. It's just it's not sustainable for 3 different wide receivers. So there's going to be games where JSN has his moments and he's shining bright, but then you're going to see what you saw last week where, he's going to go with 3 catches for 39 yards, and they don't really need to use him that much to win the ball game. All right, after, Drew's team, we'll get into number 8 here. Last week's number 6 ranked team, we got Chris Barrera, 2-1, and I slid him down from the 6 to the 8. Looking at the roster, and I get a little worried sometimes. Tank Dell not looking like it and being much involved in that Houston offense. It's looking like it's more Nico, it's more Diggs, and when healthy, it's more Mixon. So that's definitely scaring me a little bit. I like the emergence of Chris Godwin, though. He's been absolute. We talked about it when we were talking about Drew's team, how awesome Chris Godwin's been. But I'm not sure if Baker Mayfield's the sustainable quarterback. Kind of could see him have his disappearing acts. But, he might be able to stay around that top 10. I don't see him as a top 5 season long, but top 10 possibly. Spots starting here and there. Jonathan Taylor, absolute beast. I definitely like Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker. But more so when one of them's not there. It's nice when one of them's getting all the work as opposed to, more of a 60-40, 70-30 split where you're not going to get Kenneth Walker all of the work. Whereas now Charbonnet's getting all the work, and it's awesome for Barrera. Garrett Wilson's been there, but not there yet. We haven't seen him take that leap yet with Rodgers, which we'd like to see. So I think that's, a little bit of cause for concern, at least at this moment, keeping Barrera down here at 8.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and you mentioned it. He's got some good pieces, definitely, like Jonathan Taylor. Garrett Wilson is slumping a little bit compared to his preseason expectations, but
Hmm.
getting there. He's gotten better every week since, so that's been going well for him. And Chris Godwin's the wide receiver 3 in PPR right now. So crazy. And what is it? 3 straight championships he's been on. 3 straight
Yeah,
championship teams.
yep, he has been.
Yeah, so he's the good luck charm in this league, definitely. So good for him to have it. And it's good to have a good luck charm because Burr has not had good injury luck, and that's impacted his team a lot this season, as many others. But having Cooper Cup out, obviously that hurts. Jordan Love, expected to be his QB1. He got out. He should be coming back soon. He's projected points this week, so good. Potentially either this week or next should be back.
Yep.
And even like you said with Ken Walk too, Evan Ingram banged up, so I think this team definitely can be. It's not at its best form at the
Yeah.
lineup that we're looking at. But
100%.
with everybody healthy, I think it's fringe playoff or just on the outside looking in for Brewers team. You just need to see more consistency out of guys like Garrett, and a couple of guys to break through. Like if Likely starts getting those true looks, that could be big for him as well.
Yeah, definitely. I didn't even get to the tight end position with Isaiah Likely, so we'll see how that goes for Brewer in the meantime. But yeah, he's got the pieces on the roster. It's just about getting them healthy, getting them back in the lineup, and hoping that they can perform for him season long.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll do our number 17. Um, we got Emmett. The rookie team, as you want to call it, the second year guys, the young bucks for Emmett. I got him ranked at 7. Was 5 last week. Took a tough loss against me, but that's what Emmett's team is capable of. Those under 100 performances. We've seen it twice already now. Where these guys are young, so they're not going to be these consistent pieces. They might be smashes by the end of the year. Here's to hoping that they can get him to the end of the year where it matters. But for right now, you see that inconsistent play. But me, I love Bijan. But again, we haven't seen him take that step yet. I drafted him in the first round last year. Now he went one pick higher this year. But he hasn't taken that leap forward. You don't want to see him as the number 15 running back in the league. You drafted him as the third running back off the board. You want to see him as a top 3, not if number 1 running back all around. So, I'd like to see him have that monster day where he's going for 100 yards. He's going for 2 touchdowns, things like that. Falcons have had a tough schedule, so hopefully things can open up a little bit here. Tony Pollard has been a nice little steal. The unfortunate aspect is that the Titans' offense isn't very good. So, they're not always going to be up and able to run the football. And then outside of that, Marvin Harrison's finally coming into his own, which I love to see since I'm, the Kyler owner. It's nice to see the wide receiver 1 finally getting going. And then, you got Pat Mahomes who hasn't performed well. You got Sam Laporta who hasn't performed well, is now maybe injured. So up and down swings for Emmett so far.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and you mentioned it too, like with Bijan, solid, not spectacular. He's averaging right around that 16 point per game mark,
Mm-hmm.
which is nice, like you said, but it's not at the price that you're drafting him at, what you want to see. So definitely if Bijan turns that around, the Atlanta offenses look capable. So I think that they definitely can do that. And you mentioned a couple of the young guys as well. Like you said, Tony Pollard definitely a positive surprise. And Marv started to show that after scary week 1, I'm sure for Emmett, but it's not how you start, it's how you finish, right? And the next 2 weeks have been great since. Olave, that Saints offense looks great. Glad to see he got in the end zone last week. Finally showing something for all the points they've been scoring. And yeah, I think obviously the biggest thing for this team is these early draft picks. Mahomes in the 5th, and Laporta I think was the 3rd or the 4th. I think probably the 4th round. But yeah, not obviously not good for them, and it's kind of the state of the whole position. So in another year you'd be like, wait, this guy's only Patrick Mahomes only what quarterback is he listed at right now?
12.
Wow, yeah, and that's what who else was 12 too that I saw? Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it was Harrison. Harrison's 12 ranked. That's what I was wondering. I was like, all right, I saw it somewhere.
That's what's scary
definitely.
though. Is Pat Mahomes is 12. And that's
averaging 20 points a game.
I think he was 8 last year or something like that, 7 or 8 last year. So I mean, this is 2 years in a row now. You're seeing where Pat Mahomes going in the top 5 rounds, but he's playing like a streamer.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. Yeah, and we kind of talked about that a little bit, before we hopped on here. But you're out with Pacheco for 6 weeks, and you come in with all these new weapons and everything like that, with Xavier Worthy, mostly the same outside that. But you'd think he'd be slinging the rock, and no, it's like he'll run it himself. He had a couple nice runs, but they're really committed to that like run heavy approach by committee.
Mm-hmm.
And that's definitely, impacting his input. And everybody else's, as far as like Worthy and Kelsey, they're not even scratching 8 points a week right now. It's crazy on the weeks that they don't score.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been rough for everyone outside of Rashi Rice on the Chiefs so far. Um, but another steal here I love is honestly Bucky Irving. I loved watching Bucky Irving run last week. And he's going to keep going and getting more snaps, and his efficiency has been awesome in the times he's played. So, I mean, that's, I got Emmett at 7 for a reason with the potential of these young breakouts. You even saw Roma Dunze get into the end zone and make some nice catches, and he was getting targeted like crazy, and it was good to see, maybe Caleb didn't have the greatest game as like a quarterback, but he threw for over 300 yards and had 2 passing touchdowns. So that's good to see. And if some of that's going Odunze's way, and Keenan Allen's not out there, and Keenan Allen's old and banged up, and we've seen him been in and out. If Odunze can cement himself as the number 2 on this team, I mean that's great news for Emmett moving forward. Maybe not the highest passing volume offense possible, but nonetheless, you've seen what he can do.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, it's a good point on Odunze for sure. And we are in Rome. His team name went in Rome. Glad we brought our passports, along for that ride. But yeah, Rome, he's carving out a role, like you said. Bucky's carving out a role, which is great. And I think one piece that's going to be big for Emmett, potentially this season, is Jonathan Brooks.
Mm-hmm.
He's missing at least the first 4 weeks, but if he comes back, Andy Dalton, who knows? That offense is actually, it's got some talent in there. Thielen's on IR now. Just got put on today, but honestly, like the way they did it is the Raiders, so we might have to pump the brakes, but I think that they could be good, and he's a rookie. We saw he went to Texas. Obviously, they produced some good talent there, so who knows if that comes back for Emmett, that could be big.
I think that highlights it. Who knows with Emmett's team? It's unpredictable, and we've seen that so far this year. But that's what happens when you take all the young guys.
Yeah.
All right, we'll get into number 6. At number 6, we had him at number 4 last week. He's sitting across from me today. Our only winless team sneaks up to the number 6 in the power rankings. JB Scoops, we got you at number 6. And I've said it, every week I'm writing it, I like this team a lot. I like this team a lot. And I still like this team a lot. Maybe not the performance you wanted so far at 0-3. But I like the pieces. I still like A-Chain. I don't expect them to roll out with a Skylar Thompson ever again. So hopefully, they'll have better quarterback play to get him the ball and maybe stay in games. But A-Chain's been a beast this year. You have Jordan Mason, and I feel like you're going to have him, for another 4 to 6 weeks. And he's been freaking awesome. You snagged Jawan Jennings on waivers. I think, actually, that might have been a 6 a.m. pickup after waivers. But you got Jawan Jennings on your roster. He was awesome. I'll throw the Ramondre game out the window. I don't even want to talk about that one. And you got Jettas leading the way. So I definitely like your team a lot. I think they've shown that they could play and they could put up points. Now let's do it all at the same time. Let's get yourself a win.
Yeah, no, 100%. So yeah, definitely not the way I expected this year to go. I like the way I draft. I'm usually, very confident in how I draft. I think I put a good team together.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously Jordan Mason, pickup was huge, right before the season started. So, definitely good there. Last week was unfortunate, not everything lined up together. Week 2, I win if I start Burrow instead of Stafford. And that hurts. I'm not making the best decisions. I got to be better. But I think, like you said, the foundation's there. Definitely with Jettas. Haven't had AJ Brown since week 1. It's tough. DJ Moore, solid, not spectacular. Kelsey's been horrible. I don't know if he's ever going to be good this year, but you look to the waiver wire to try to find some help or a replacement, and at that point, there's nobody that you're going to start over Kelsey. That's on there, so you're going to have to ride it out. And Joe is starting to heat up, so definitely need him to produce if I want to make a push for the playoffs this year.
Yeah, and I didn't even scroll down to the bench to the IR spot yet, but you have AJ Brown just sitting there waiting to come back. You have T. Higgins who just got back. You have even Najee Harris who he's been the lead back in Pittsburgh, and maybe he's not going to go off for 25, 30, but he's a consistent 10 to 15 every week, and that's sometimes you need that, especially when the injuries pile up or you get to the bye weeks coming soon. So things like that are nice to have as well.
Yeah, just got to hope for got to turn it around soon.
Yeah, let's get you into the win column this week. Finally cross the border, but there's things to be happy about, and that's hey, look 3 years back when Greg started 0-4 and won the championship, turned things around So, you're never out of it in this league, and you're never out of it in fantasy football. So, we're not there yet.
Yeah.
All right, now we'll get into the top 5 teams here. At number 5, I got Steve. Last week we had him at 3. It takes a tough loss, but I like the running back room. It's probably the strongest running back room we're seeing between Kamara, Etienne, and Cook. Cook has just emerged as the guy in Buffalo. And what's helpful is he's getting the carries close to the goal line as well. It's not going to Josh Allen every week like it used to last year. He wasn't getting in the end zone, but now he is, and he looks awesome. That Buffalo offense looks awesome. Kamara, he's getting everything in New Orleans, which is nice. And there is some concern around Etienne, but not enough. I don't feel like Tank Bigsby is that good of a player, so I still like Etienne. The what you thought was actually a strong receiver core has not turned out to be. Tyreek Hill obviously unfortunate with quarterback play now. Hopefully they can find someone that can just get him the ball. And I mean, you saw it last week. Brandon Ayuk, was outshined by Juwan Jennings, but I saw a tweet that was showing it shows you their expected fantasy points versus their actual fantasy points, and him and Juwan literally have the same expected around 22 points. So it was there for Ayuk. He just hasn't been able to put it together. We've seen him drop a couple passes now at this point. So he's still in his preseason mode after skipping all of the offseason. So hopefully, as the weeks go by, if he can turn to a strong receiver for Steve, I see nothing but success here.
Yeah, no, 100%. So, yeah, the running back room is obviously, the big strength for this team. They're awesome. Kamara's number 2. Mm-hmm. James Cook's number 6 right now. ETN after yesterday, I don't know if it's updated or not, with the points from yesterday, but he's, fringe top 20. So great, great there. Obviously Tyreek, you draft him, no brainer. That injury is, a major bummer. But who knows who they bring in? They got to bring in somebody, like you said. No more Skylar Thompson. Get this man somebody that can throw the ball deep down the field. I feel like he's always open. They just they pan the camera and he's wide open by 15 yards. So got to get somebody to get it down there. And Ayuk, definitely disappointing. It probably is the holdout that's still lingering. You just find his stride, but with Debo hurt, with no McCaffrey and Kittle banged up, this is his time. Even last week, it was Juwan's show, but definitely got to figure that out there. And Pickens has the potential too. With Arthur Smith offense, not always the best to hope for passing volume, but when he gets his looks, he's definitely good. And I think that's a big. Do you still hear me?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, it went black. So, all right. Yeah, other than that, I think the bench is really shallow. You have Shaheed. He got burned by him last week with a donut. But outside of that, Dak is still, I think he's going to be a top 10 QB this year. So you got him to rely on. What's up?
I said he always is.
Yeah, no, Dak. Yeah, so he's gonna give you his. He's averaging around 24 a game this year. So yeah, I think Steve, he's 1-2 right now in the 7th spot, but. I think those, having a solid running back room, assuming they all stay healthy, is something that, should be able to carry him pretty far this year.
Yeah, I definitely can agree with that. I'm not seeing too much on the bench to be excited about, but I do like the starting lineup at the very least. There's plenty of time to acquire some depth pieces from the waiver wire this year. Dak is always a solid QB, and hopefully, Ferguson's going to find a stride, and that's a decent little stack to have. At number 4, from here on out, it's going to be all teams with winning records. At number 4, we have your brother, Kyle Cactus. Last week, we had him at number 8, so a big-time jump here for Kyle. Maybe I finally have to admit that this team isn't too bad. I've been trying to, dig it down, no pun intended, but he's clearly, a top 2 option in that wide receiver room. Him and Nico are the guys. Diggs is getting a lot of work, especially around the end zone. Aaron Jones has been awesome so far this year. The Vikings offense itself, they're 3-0, so I didn't expect that, obviously. So maybe that's why I had Aaron Jones a little bit lower, but they're legit. And Saquon is, everyone thought Jalen Hurts would take a lot of the rushing away from Saquon. It's actually the opposite. Saquon is taking all of the rushing away from Jalen Hurts. So Saquon's been a beast, and I think things turn around for Josh Jacobs. He hasn't found, the end zone. He hasn't found those monster games. But look at last week. Emmanuel Wilson stole a rushing touchdown. Malik Willis had a rushing touchdown on the goal line. These are all opportunities. He's had 5 carries inside the 10 so far this year. So, he'll find the end zone once or twice coming soon. And, things help when you also have Josh Allen as your quarterback. Buying away the number one quarterback in fantasy football. It's not even close. He's been an absolute beast. So, definitely time to start respecting Kyle's team just a little bit.
Yeah, no, I think it is. It's honestly surprising me too. I had him in my preseason power rankings at 8.
Yeah.
So right, we had him last week. He's winning, so that's what matters at the end of the day. Yeah, and there are some really good pieces on this team. Obviously Josh Allen's the number one, Saquon Barkley number one running back. He's playing like the true offensive player of the year. And the way quarterback play is honestly the MVP this year. You can make an argument, besides a couple defensive players that are making their case. But yeah, seriously, and Josh Allen. But seriously, he's got a lot of good pieces. Diggs is surprising me. I know he's a top 10 receiver as we speak through 3 weeks. I don't really know how. Like we mentioned, you mentioned before, Tank Dell's not really getting involved. But Diggs, my biggest thing, he was, for me last year, he was great in the first half and was just disappearing act in the second half.
Yeah.
So we'll see if that happens again. But there are pieces that I am, a little bit doubtful of.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle Pitts, this guy just literally cannot produce one double-digit point game. Pittman, like you said, I don't know if you touched on Pittman, but before we were talking about him,
yeah.
that Anthony Richardson is, his throwing is very unproven. And we've seen him go to, complementary pieces as opposed to just honing in on Pittman. So that's a big one. But, Shakir, he's going for the stack there. I'm facing him this week. So can't wait to, if we go over that, can't wait to go into that one. But yeah, and, obviously the biggest thing is losing Puka Nacua too. So, when Puka comes back, that's going to be a big boost. And it's good for him that he's winning, in his absence. So, good on him for that.
Didn't even mention that, but yeah, his second round pick is just sitting on IR, hasn't played since week 1. So definitely some things to possibly look for Kyle if you can get him back, especially and get, Michael Pittman out of a lineup. Could always be good.
Absolutely.
Number 3, our biggest jump by far. He was ranked number 9 last week. Goes all the way up to number 3. We got Josh Warren, Big Cunch, getting up there. And I think it's mainly due in part, you look at last week before I'm ranking him. You have Terry McLaurin, who hadn't shown up to a football game yet. You have Deontay Johnson, who couldn't get anything in Carolina. But you know what? The emergence of Jaden Daniels, speaking of, who is his quarterback, is awesome for Josh. He looked so good last night. He looked absolutely legit. A must start every week now. With Richardson struggling, that's great for Josh to have Jaden Daniels. And you know what? If he's thrown to Terry McLaurin, that's a great stack to have there. So if Deontay Johnson can, turn it around and like they have in Carolina with Andy Dalton, I mean, Josh's team takes a huge leap for me, and becomes awesome. And, I was trying to hate on Derrick Henry after week 1 when I was playing Josh, but Derrick Henry's been awesome. He's just getting all the work in another situation where it's like, okay, you thought that, maybe Lamar would hurt Derrick Henry in the rushing, but you know what? They're kind of just doing it together and they're just not throwing the ball ever. So that's fine that the Ravens love to run the football, and, you have Breece Hall, and I don't really care much about Braylon Allen. I think Braylon Allen's great. And, if Breece Hall went down, Braylon Allen would be RB1 type thing. But Josh has them both, so he'll be fine there. And, I really like the roster just looking at it from top to bottom, at least in the starting department.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, yeah, like you said, well, started from the top. Jaden Daniels has been a big, surprise. He's living up to, far beyond the expectation, especially in his first year. And he's getting a start this week, I'm not a projections guy. I don't like to look at ESPN projections. But Anthony Richardson projected less than 20, 19.9. Well, and this is a guy who was drafted
where in the 6th round? I think the 5-6 turn.
Overall. Yeah, so he was, top 10 quarterback off the board. That's not good. But, what is good is his running back duo. So, Steve has the 3, but if you narrow it down to 2, I might give the edge to this one here, honestly. It's neck and neck. With Breece, obviously, just crazy good. He touches the ball, so many times. Same with Derrick Henry. And I ran into Josh last week, unfortunately. Just a buzzsaw. You said a couple of guys like Deontay Johnson and McLaurin woke up, and who knows? Honestly, their picture looks a lot brighter for the near future, and not the rest of the season. And Trey McBride, he's a little banged up, but he's a legitimate top 3 tight end, especially the way they're playing this year. I feel like he's one of the only few with a touchdown, even if it was recovering a fumble.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely good. What's that?
I said it's still 6 points.
Yeah, right. However it comes, it could be rushing, passing, whatever. But yeah, no, definitely good. And he's got a lot of points to his name so far. As far as that goes, 362 puts him looks like in fourth place in points. So good for Josh. Yeah, and the big jump. Two straight wins. He had that Monday Night Madness game over Steve in week 2 that
Yep.
he snuck it out with the Drake London touchdown.
Yep.
That could be the turning point in the season right there. Then you stare in the face of 0-2, finds a way to get it done. 2-1. Good for him.
Yeah, definitely good to see. Yeah, I like the roster a lot. We talked. We didn't even talk about. Hopefully Devontae Smith is all right, but he looked. Has been looking so good in the absence of AJ Brown that if he is all right and he is playing, um, he's a top option there as well.
100%.
And then our final two teams. At number 2, it's the same two from last week, but at number 2 we got Uncle Greg sitting in number 2. And he took a tough loss this past week. Didn't get the performances he might have wanted, but I still like the team. I like the roster. C.J. Stroud, down week. James Conner, down week. CeeDee Lamb, down week. Devontae Adams, sometimes it's just not there, and I think we both know that best. It happens to the best of us, but I think CeeDee Lamb is still awesome, and I still think he's going to be that guy. Obviously, more of a sore subject, but he's playing the Giants this week, and he usually does well against them. DK Metcalf is the lead guy in Seattle. He's going to catch those deep passes. Goddard's emergence is really nice, and with the absence of AJ Brown and potentially Devontae Smith, only speaks brighter days for Goddard, and that's big. Speaking that Mark Andrews isn't a viable option anymore.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, we'll kick it off with tight end because why not? It's a dying breed. So, to have Dallas Goedert, the number 1 PPR tight end this year,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like saying you're the tallest little person in the room. But, that's good for him. If you're getting production at that position, especially this year, you got to love it.
Yeah.
And yeah, Greg loves Devontae. He's got him everywhere. He's got him to score a touchdown every week in his parlays and his bets. But yeah, every week he's still, one of the best route runners in the league. So he's going to get open. CD, same. Definitely a little mad at CD on my personal end. We'll leave that for another day. But CJ Stroud, who hasn't showed his best yet, he's only the 15th best quarterback. He's got the weapons; they're all healthy, so no reason that he can't turn that around. They're a little run heavy, so if he finds more success, that's big for him. But yeah, no, Greg 2-1, like you said, he was pretty close to 3-0. But I think that, and even just looking at the bench, he's got Jaden Reed. If Jordan Love comes back, that could be big for him too. But yeah, overall, I like this team, very solid on paper. We'll just see. Even Zach Moss, I'm not 100% sold on Zach Moss,
Yeah.
but he's giving you 13 points a week. So how mad could you be with your RB2 with those wide receiver options, and even Chuba giving you pretty good numbers. You can't. There's not really a lot of weaknesses, necessarily on this roster. So very solid team. Greg looking at three-peat, so good for him to start the season 2-1.
Yeah, I think that's really what it comes down to with this roster. Is it's definitely just solid. There's nothing. It's not many holes. I don't know if I see the explosion weeks, but if they all put it together at the same time, maybe. But I think he's got a consistent roster that can kind of keep him around in any game. We've seen that so far, and then. At number 1, we have the preseason number 1 and the number 1 so far in every week, and I'm going to put myself there. This is 2 years in a row, though. Now where I've started hot, last year I was 4-0. This year I'm 3-0 so far, hoping to go 4-0, but I like my roster, so I'm going to have me at number 1, the last remaining undefeated team. I think when you can hold off on a quarterback and tight end and still hit on both of them is big, because that means I loaded myself up with running backs and wide receivers and, got lucky or found the hidden gems in Kyler and Brock Bowers. Didn't get that week from Brock last week or Kyler last week, but they've had their weeks where they've shown what they can do at this position. They're both sitting top 5, top 6 so far. The running back room, it's there with Gibbs, and I have Brian Robinson and J.K. to fill in some depth with Joe Mixon out and Debo out as well, and I feel like I have enough depth to back myself up with those injuries, at least for now.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's again with like Barrera's team, for example, how the roster looks is not indicative of how the team is for the rest of the season going forward. So yeah, you're dealing with little injuries as well with Mixon and Debo, who have both started pretty strong. But yeah, Kyler's been a very pleasant surprise. So good for to get him. And he wasn't. Oh no, he was your starting. I know you had Goff for a second,
Yep.
but Kyler was always your starting Q.
Yeah,
So
Goff's
yeah,
on the
number
bench.
6 this year, so that's good for him. And even I think the biggest thing for you was like you said, the depth and J.K. Dobbins like filling in right now. Would have been a scary situation. I know you have Brian Robinson, so he could have filled in, but that running back too could have been scary without finding somebody like that. Especially with Mixon going out early.
Mhm.
But Rushy, crazy. He's number 2 this year. He's got the best quarterback in football, arguably. I think it's pretty clear throwing the football to him.
Yep.
You got Amon-Ra, the big trade that we had pre-draft.
Yeah.
Didn't shake out the way that I thought. I thought he was going to be on my team. I'm loving Jettas.
I mean, yeah, it would have just been Jettas on my team and Amon-Ra on yours.
Yeah, and you would have been off to an even better start this year, I'm sure, as far as points for go. You had that
Yeah.
big slugfest win. Good for your team to show some grit there. And we'll see. Mixon's projected some points this week, so maybe you get to throw him in the flex and take over the highest projected point total for the week. But yeah, well deserved. Great draft for you. Happy that you're winning some games. That's good for you. Maybe in what are we in year 10 or year
You're
8?
you're 9.
Year 9. Okay, year 9. You jump on.
Yeah, this is year 9.
Go for the chip in year 9. So
Yeah,
one of
it'd
the
be.
last 3, man. This could be your run. This could be your run to get it. Like Dynasty, you got your chip there. You made some big trades. Maybe we'll see the same this year. Going crazy, acquiring some frontline guys.
Yeah, hopefully we can, you know, keep it going. Last year I was 4-0, so we don't want to, right now we're not getting ahead. We're not losing sight of what's important and what's in front of us. And just hopefully, every time I see my players go down on the ground, I'm holding my breath because last year, I started 4-0 and then you lose your quarterback in Herbert, you lose your number one receiver in Keenan Allen, you lose your tight end in Mark Andrews all last year. So I definitely know how that injury plague can hit you. So a couple injuries right now, but luckily I have the depth to keep myself pushing so far. But holding my breath definitely every time one of my players at least hits the ground.
Yeah, and those 2 are short, so you made it through. Probably a good length of their injuries to
Yeah,
this point. So yeah, nice job. 3-0, the only undefeated team so far. 89% chance of the playoffs according to ESPN for you.
that's pretty solid. I mean, we've said the magic number for sure is 8, and mostly now with the expansion, 7 wins gets you in. So the magic number is down to 5 now, just to make it in, at least for me so far, which is always nice. So anytime you can get a win, just puts you one step closer to at least reaching the playoffs. This year, I'd like to obviously get past that point, but yeah, that concludes our 10 for this week. We'll run through it real quick, but at number 1 we got me, Greg, Josh, Kyle, Steve, yourself, Emmett, Barrera, Drew, and Shijin. I feel like I say this every year, but I think it's just always so close. You know, Especially when you get into that middle ground, I just feel like every team, yeah, maybe I put you 9, maybe I put you 7, maybe I put you 10, maybe I put you 6, whatever. It doesn't matter. I feel like you could they're easily interchangeable, and especially at this point, no one's really separated themselves from the pack. So it's definitely everyone's right there.
Yeah, and they're always fluid. Like what'd you have Josh last week? 9. He's all
Yeah.
the way up to 3. You can jump 6 spots overnight too. You just got to have a big convincing win.
Well, those big convincing wins, and a couple things shift in the teams, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, hold on, I might have been wrong about this team, and I can admit that. So that'll conclude our power ranking segment. But now we've talked about each team, but let's talk about what to look for in week 4 in their matchups. We'll head to Thursday night here. We'll take Josh. We'll take Shijin going up against each other here. A big game for both. Josh has been riding in absolutely on fire, 2 straight wins. So does he stay hot, or does Shijin kind of put an end to that?
Yeah, I am going to go with Josh in this one. According to ESPN Bet, it's giving Josh the -14 handicap.
Yikes.
So that's a healthy spread.
Yeah.
We talked a lot about Josh's team. He went from 9 to 3 in the power rankings. And some emergences of guys. Jaden Daniels, Deontay Johnson, and Terry McLaurin. And like I said, those are I don't think they're just 1 week surprises. I think they have the blueprint to go and be consistent. I like Josh to win this week.
Yeah. I definitely like that as well. 14 is a lot, but things can change. Players can be marked out, and you never know what happens. But definitely a good starting lineup at least. Just based on my power rankings, Josh is definitely ranked higher. So we'll take Josh with this win. Moving into our 1 o'clock game, it's a barn burner, but stick with us. You got Burr, you got Steve. Um, I mean, Barrera's 2-1 somehow. He's found his stride. Uh, ESPN bet again, in love with Steve, a big time dog for Barrera. But Barrera likes to be an underdog.
He definitely does. Yeah. So Steve, yeah, like 17.8 is the spread. I think a big thing for Barrera as far as projections go, you have Charbonnet in there. So, one way or another with Kenneth Walker, you'll probably have the
Right.
higher projected guy in there. Um, yeah, and we'll see. At the moment, I do like Steve's team. We talked about the running backs. It's a favorable matchup for Tyreek.
Mm-hmm.
So even though the quarterback's been struggling, he all it takes is one for him to make a day. So yeah, yeah, I'm gonna go with Steve. I think it will be close though. Like I said, with the projection way too high, I'll take Barrera to cover, but I'll take Steve to win.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, obviously they're projecting Charbonnet for low because they think Kenneth Walker could play. But obviously, if Kenneth Walker's out another week, Charbonnet's projection is going to double. So this will become a lot tighter of a matchup. I think, yeah, you definitely favor Steve in a lot of aspects, but I wouldn't be surprised if Barrera puts something together again. He's been winning, and that's, I feel like, the Barrera way is everyone, he's always the underdog. Everyone always, thinks he's going to lose, and he'll find a way to pull it out on you. The flood could be coming over on Steve's way, so who knows?
The 2-1. I hope the memes start coming back, Barrera. If you watch this, consider bringing back the memes, please.
We're hoping for it every day. We'll go to 425 here, prime matchup between the two Bartis brothers, and you got Kyle Bartis, who's been the unsuspecting team. We had him ranked low, and he's coming for that crown. And then you got yourself, who looking for that first win, and do you get that this week?
Man, I don't even know if I'm going to submit a projection for this game. I like my chances in every week this year, and I'm on 3. So I hope maybe if I start going the other way, maybe better fortune will come.
Yeah.
But yeah, just looking at it, the matchups are pretty good for both sides.
Mm-hmm.
I like our chances of hitting the over, 255 points. I like the over here. Is what I'm going to play and leave the side off to the side. If I do have to pick, one team to win this week, I probably would pick mine. I'm going to ride out this Jordan Mason one as long as I can,
Yeah.
this run. And, Jawan Jennings might have missed the boat. I'm not surprised. I played Jamison Williams one week after he averaged 18 and he scored 1.2. So I'm hoping, Jawan doesn't do me dirty like that.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Obviously Saquon, somebody to be worried about. Josh Allen, always somebody to be worried about. I think the running backs are who it boils down to for his success this week. They're playing in the same game, so hopefully we get a lot of long drives in
Yeah.
that game.
Take it away. I mean, ESPN bets got you at -9, and if you're betting man, do you go for the 0-3 favorite here, or do you play the 2-1 with the points? You might want to roll that way, but no, I think you have some great matchups. I mean, that New England matchup, no offense, might be pretty juicy for San Fran here. You saw what the Jets did to them on Thursday night, and if that's anything to look at, that could be Jordan Mason for 150 and 2. So
Definitely could. Yeah, and you see even like what the big trends are in the NFL this year. All the dogs of 5.5 or more, are 12-2 against the spread this year.
yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
I feel like almost everyone has won. In that, at least, especially all this. You mentioned the survivor picks in our group chat.
Yeah.
Like my goodness, everybody's just getting demolished in that
Yeah, it's
this
been a
year.
it's been a
Nobody's
tough
safe.
it's been a tough year for heavy favorites. So we'll see. I mean, maybe does that hold true in our league? Because we've seen 3 heavy favorites so far. I don't know.
I hope not.
We'll get into our Sunday night game, and it looks like a good one here. You take the top 2 teams and you put them together and you throw it on Sunday night. You got Greg and you got myself, and what looks like should be a fun matchup. Who knows where our lineups end up right now? It's got Greg at -4.6. But nothing's set in stone. It's only Tuesday, so we don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but it should definitely be a fun one.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing in this matchup, honestly, is the availability of Joe Mixon. He would be playing Jacksonville. We saw what the Bills did to Jacksonville yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows if he gets a full workload? Usually he does when he plays. And presumably that would replace Calvin Ridley in your lineup. And like you said, projection-wise, that would swing it, big time. That would put you, projected to win. It's tight. I just want to look at the matchups quick. Stroud gets to play that, mentioned
Same
Jacksonville
team,
defense.
yeah. And who
Yeah.
knows? You never know. Maybe I slip Cam Akers into the lineup once Mixon's ruled out. So who knows what I
Yeah.
do? I got options.
Yeah, you do have options, and Greg does as well. Like we mentioned, Jaden Reed, Cortland
Yeah.
Sutton. He's got a couple on the bench. This is tough. This is
It,
tough.
it's our closest matchup by far.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm gonna just the way that Rasheed's getting fed, the way J.K. Dobbins running the ball, and I'm gonna go with a slight win. Definitely would lock in the +4.5 right now.
Yeah.
If ESPN Bet is offering me that,
Yeah.
and I'll take you on the money line
They
as a
usually
slight
don't
dog.
open the lines for the fantasy football league until Thursday, just due to
Mm,
the lineups and who's in, who's out. So they definitely lock it ahead of time. But you get to see an early lean at least.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I definitely I'll take the 3-0 team as an underdog. But Greg always has my number. At least when it comes to the playoffs. Maybe I have his when it comes to the regular season. But it should be a fun one, and we'll be active and we'll be going at it where we can. And
Yeah, and you're on the road in a tough
fun
environment there.
fun fact as of right now, Greg actually pointed this out to me early on, but I don't have a single player playing before 4 o'clock.
Oh, in this matchup here?
Yeah, as of right now, with how my lineup is, not one player is before 4. So Thursday night, Saturday, Sunday at 1, I'll just be sitting pretty, waiting, watching what Greg's team does until I could have a player actually show up and start playing. So should be
Yeah,
fun and definitely stressful for Greg.
absolutely.
And then without further ado, we'll get to our last matchup and a Monday night one, which feels like a fun and frisky Monday night game. Maybe not a headliner, but it feels like it could be like a fun matchup at the very least. And it's Drew versus Emmett. Two teams 1 and 2, just kind of looking to make a jump here. Tough to put together a line to start, as Emmett doesn't have a tight end in. That could be a sign for a potential pickup or something to see who he's throwing in the tight end room. But right now, I think the biggest surpriser here is Emmett's got Aaron Rodgers in the lineup and Pat Mahomes on the bench.
Yeah, no, that's big. I mean, when you draft Patrick Mahomes, you don't ever anticipate needing another quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
We mentioned it when we went through his team, not the start that we expected. But I think the arrow is obviously pointing up. I mean, the guy's got all the weapons he could ask for. They just it's just as far as play calling, I think is the biggest thing. So
Yeah.
if they let him turn it loose, I think that he will obviously produce. But yeah, definitely, that's his guy, Rodgers. You don't have many more games with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, so why not start him if you want a little spark for your team? Tight end, yeah, it's either Laporta who's banged up, and that's a Monday night game, so might be a little tough to rely on that. So Emmett will probably make contingency plans.
I can kind of guess who I think he's gonna sneak and pick up. Luckily, this won't be released until Wednesday, so waivers will have passed and no one can steal it, except for you and I guess. But we're both okay. I think at tight end, we're not rushing to the waivers to pick anyone out. But I see
Yeah,
Aaron Rodgers. I see Aaron Rodgers at quarterback and an empty tight end slot. So you do what you will with that information.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we talked about Drew's team. I think it is one of the more solid teams on paper.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to lock in Drew
Yeah.
with the win this week. Yeah. Obviously, like you said, that spread not going to be released until Thursday from ESPN Bet, so it's not looking truly realistic.
It'll probably be
But yeah,
around
Kittle's
minus
definitely a
10,
question mark
minus
too.
8 once he gets a tight end in.
Kittle, I think Kittle's another big X factor. So
Yeah.
tight end in the whole matchup is going to be big. Like otherwise he'll have to turn to Colby Parkinson, who has averaged 5 points a game this year. That would be a big swing, and
Yeah.
things. So as of right now, I do like Drew to win. But I think it's going to be very close.
Mm.
And might be a little bit of a slugfest. Emmett's been getting into some low scoring matchups.
Yeah.
But he's come out pretty fine as far as that goes. Health wise as well.
Yeah, I can see this one being, one of those games that through 3 quarters, you're like, why am I even watching this? But you get a fun, you get a fun fourth quarter, and you're like, okay, things are starting to heat up, and it's a little bit of back and forth, and a close one that comes down to a game-winning field goal. So I could definitely see that, and you look at it just quick, and there are a couple Monday night guys, so hey, it could be some fun, and with the double Monday night games this year, back-to-back weeks now, there'll be week 3, and now in week 4 they're doing it again. That just creates for more Monday Night Madness. So a lot of fun around the league. But yeah, that concludes our matchup previews, and it should be a fun one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, this was a blast. So a lot to break down. I know, it's going to be a pretty lengthy episode, but
But
you know, when you miss the first 3 weeks of the season, there's going to be a lot to talk about. You know,
yeah,
so
a lot to get
really
into.
happy we got to get on here and go over the league,
Absolutely.
and everything that's been going on this
And
wacky season.
yeah, and I hope this starts to spark some interest in the pod. Maybe I didn't do any solo episodes, but you know what? I'm always down for a joint episode. And Bartis, it was a pleasure having you as always. I welcome, hey, those watching, if you saw something you like, saw something you didn't like, and you want to come on, you want to talk about it, I'm open. You come in, we'll create a new segment. We'll do exactly what Bartis and I just did. I don't care what it is. Just happy to talk KFG.
Absolutely. Me too, man. Yeah, let's get involved. Let's, when this gets posted to YouTube, throw a like, throw a comment.
Yeah,
check out the website as always. Drew does an
always.
amazing job. To Greg, Nick, Emmett in the off season, everybody that puts in that content, great work, Kyle. Coming for you this week. Make sure you get your matchup previews turned into the website.
Yeah, we'd like to see those, especially in a rivalry week for you guys. But yeah, that'll do it for this episode of KFG Pod. Sorry it took so long to get here, but happy we're finally back. Look forward to and best of luck to everyone in week 4. And hopefully we get some people picking up their first win.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's hope so.
Until next time.